We're talking growers and showers in this latest episode. The players that have shown us basically everything that they have to offer so far. Maybe they're a sell high. And the players that we think have got a little bit left in the tank. Let's chat. G'day, everybody. I know you're a little concerned by the start. You are watching the Ball Logic Fantasy Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Braino, joined by Malley. And, mate, I'm sure maybe people are a little bit concerned or a little bit confused around what the title of this show is.
Well, especially if you read it, it does look like it says growers and showers, which seems like we're doing a horticulturalist podcast all of a sudden, like how to look after your ferns. But it is growers and showers. And as most of our audience would probably know, if we look at our little statistical layout, most of us have experience in one of the two categories. I worry if you don't have any experience in either of the categories. If you're not a grower nor a shower, I don't really know what's left. I just assumed you had to default set to one of those two things. I won't ask too much about your situation there, mate. I just kind of want to talk about basketball, and I'm glad that people haven't been freaked out so far about the title.
No, they won't be, mate. And of course, put a bit of a funny kind of name to things, but I like the premise of the show. You've come up with it, and it's talking about, I guess, the growers are the players that we think have room to move, right? They've shown us something, right? They're definitely getting there, and they've improved, but we've still got a little bit more juice left in the tank. And then those showers are basically giving us everything. They're probably those sell high candidates, those guys that have shown us everything that they have to offer this year, and don't really have anything left to give us.
Exactly right. Yeah, they've pretty much put it all out on the table, and we're just staring around in awe. But the growers are probably where we're at, and understanding that maybe don't panic if you're packing a few growers.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully, if you've got a couple of these guys, we'll talk about. We've got 6 players to go through tonight with you. If you've got a couple of these guys, maybe you can have a think about, potentially trading off to get to another. Mate, you've got a good little trade from one to the other at the moment tonight. So we'll talk about that very soon, guys. Hit subscribe, like, follow, give it a thumbs up, give it a hype on YouTube. We'd really appreciate it if you do like the content. Audio followers, follow and give us a 5-star review if you do like the content over there as well. We would appreciate that. Let's dive in, mate, because of course, number one, we'll start with, where do you want to start? You want to start with the growers, or do you want to start with the showers?
Let's start with the showers. I just want to, let's get the showers out.
All right, well, the first shower, the man has given us absolutely everything, probably more than we ever expected, is Jrue Holiday. He's balling out over in Portland. He's ranked 41st at the moment, 17.5 points, 5 boards, 7.5 assists, 1.5 steals, 3 turnovers, and not really hurting your efficiency too much. He's been elite. He's been absolutely fantastic so far this year. I've got him in a 20-man league at the moment, and he's absolutely on the carry, considering I've got Brandon Miller, Zion Williamson, and AD in that league with no IR. So I'm in all sorts over there, but Drew's got his backpack on over there in that league. Funnily enough, you might have traded off him, didn't you?
Yeah, I did make a little move for a guy that we're going to look at in the growers section today. So yeah, just I've had him till this point, so it's been a great couple of first weeks. But to have a point guard who can hold your field goal percentages in a reasonable kind of position, it is super helpful. A guy that, as you showed in his statistical profile before, getting more than 2 3-pointers a game. He's getting 1.5 steals. The scoring is looking good on a team that has had a pretty good start so far. There also is no depth behind him at the moment, so there will, the spectre is looming behind him of Scoot, but I also don't feel like they're clearly, with the guys that they've taken on in Lillard and Jrue. Maybe if they took one, but as soon as they took two, you kind of start to feel like they're not really prioritizing Scoot. They didn't last year, and really last year was when they had no hope. So you kind of feel like this year, where they're starting with a great record, that maybe it's even less of a chance for Scoot. He started off injured, which has really opened the doors wide for Jrue. But we're really looking at a Jrue, like Pelicans level Jrue. We're looking all the way back to his New Orleans days. And, this Jrue obviously was still there in Boston. They just didn't need him to do anything more than what he did. And now that he's been unleashed, I guess, or re-unleashed, I guess, Mark II version of him, he's looked really good. But I do think that everything he's got's on the table. The steals aren't going to move. The assists at 7.5. I mean, he had to do more scoring yesterday, and that even kind of started to impact his assist a little. The 7.5 assists are very valuable in in the scenario that we're faced with at the moment, where there just isn't a lot of point guards, and assists, although probably still happening in the exact same amounts, are being spread across players and across teams, where it's not just one central figure who's really absorbing all those assists. So the percentages I think will hold. He's always been a good free throw guy, but I mean that's not that exciting from a point guard. But the field goals at only a touch under 500 is exciting, especially when he's a guy who will shoot threes. Because we've got other guys who won't take them, and that's probably why they're someone like a Giddey, who's probably also around that 500 mark. He's definitely grown that in his game, but it's not a big part of what he has to do out there. So, yeah, I think what we're seeing now is the high water mark. I'm not necessarily saying that it's all going to fall in a heap. I just don't think you should be thinking that there's anything more to come. I think what you're getting now is the most you're going to get from Jrue this season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I'm just looking back at his last few years, and it was the year that Denver won the chip in 22-23. A lot of career highs from him in that year in Boston. It was probably his last relevant, or not his last relevant year, but his last year as a top 30 fantasy player. He went 29th, 33rd, and 31 when he was at Boston. Boston won the chip, and he was taking 14, 15 shots a game. And then that's fallen off a cliff. 23-24, he took 10 shots a game at 480, and then 9 shots a game the year after that. So we started to see a bit of a slow regression for Jrue. Down to 12, 11 points per game, not even 2 threes, not even 5 assists, going from a 6 to 7 assist guy down to 3.5, 4.5. So even his steals dropped back. Everything has dropped back from Jrue the last 2 seasons. So it's nice to see a little bit of a bounce back from him. Obviously, he's in the situation where he gets to be the guy there, which is completely, the reason why we drafted him at probably, 100, 110 was his ADP. So, it's a surprise. You're definitely getting, top 50 value from a guy that you got after 110, which is elite. But yeah, you're right. You can't sustain this type of stuff. There's no, especially with Scoot coming back. I do think that when you go and draft Jrue, and obviously you go and sign Jrue, I should say, and you've got Dame Lillard, who's not far away. They might be saying to Scoot, put you on ice for a little bit, maybe another season. But I do feel like this is that veteran presence that needs to guide Scoot in that area as well. He hasn't really, aside from when Dame was there in his rookie year, he hasn't really had that kind of veteran point guard to lead him around, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And next year it might become, or towards the very end of this year, it might become a curse where they're both there, and it kind of impacts him negatively. But yeah, I look at Jrue, and as you said before, most of us took him beyond the 100 mark, and you must be stoked that you're already getting 50 places of value at least. I'm less worried about Scoot coming back. I'm more worried about his age and his health. He's playing a lot of minutes. They're getting him to do a lot. He's. I think that's probably going to be his downfall before a proper impact from Scoot.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and Scoot's still a few weeks away. So, probably the right time to probably move off Jrue, as you've done in a league. So, yeah, it's good timing, mate. Let's move on to Jalen Duren, who's been on fire as well as a guy who's shown us everything he's got to offer. 34th at the moment. He's on 18 points, 11.5 boards, and 1.5 blocks per game on 600, plus 600 from the field. You're not going to get any better than that from Jalen Duren. And look, he's been fantastic. Can he keep this up all year? Look, maybe he can. These kind of numbers aren't really anything that would surprise us compared to what he's done in previous seasons. He's a big rebounder. He's a pretty good blocks guy. This is career best blocks at the moment for him, 1.4. And then he's very deficient in a lot of other categories. So he suits a punt build really well, punt threes, punt assists, punt turnovers, steals, and everything else he does pretty well. And I think the big kicker for me is that looking at his free throw percentage, there is no way in the world that stays at 830. Looking at what he's done in the last 3 years, he's a 600 to 750 free throw shooter, and at the moment he's at 830 on 6 attempts per game. So naturally, I think unless he's come leaps and bounds in one off season, I think that will start to drop back as well and hurt his value somewhat.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes him a shower is he kind of tricked us in the first maybe three games of this season into thinking he was going to be a grower when he was actually a sneaky shower, because he had those big 2 foul games, and then I think one of the games he just played poorly. He had just some incidentally kind of poor situational things that stopped him from having good games, and from there he's just exploded. He has looked like the best guy on a Cade Cunningham-led team. And that's probably one of the things that, again, we're not here talking about guys that we're like, get rid of all you can. But that's one of the things that's just not going to hold. He's not going to end the season as being the best player on his team with Cade Cunningham there. As you said, really nice to see the blocks, because that was one of the things that turned a lot of people off him in the past, is really he was just rebounds, basically. And now that he could get a couple of defensive numbers, that's great. You're right, the getting to the line as much he is and also hitting from the line as much he is seems a little bit fake. But this isn't out of the realms of reality. Unlike someone like Jrue, where I kind of feel like he could be here today, gone tomorrow type thing. Duren, they seem to out of nowhere, because there wasn't a big focus of theirs last year. So this is his 3rd year, is it not? I believe it is. So he had these great first year, and then people bought high on him. And then last year he started disappointing, but then kind of got it together at the end of the year. And now he's come out on fire again. But yeah,
This is year 4 for him.
Year 4, is it? Great. Yep. So he's giving Zoo a little bit like from last year, just like the fact that he's not as low as you would have taken Zoo at last year's draft, nearly in Jrue territory, and now you would have probably taken Duren around like the 60 mark ish. But yeah, he has been spectacular. He won't get more rebounds than what he's getting. He's not going to get more points really than what he's getting. He's not going to hit from the line or even get to the line as much as he's getting. The rebounds probably hold. Maybe whatever he got 17 the other night's probably a little unrealistic. But yeah, not a get rid of at all cost type of guy, because I think, again, if he falls off, he's only falling back to where you picked him up anyway. So enjoy him while he's in the 30s. And if someone wants to take him off you, I nearly would let them if you're getting back a top 30 guy.
And that's we love fantasy basketball, we love NBA, and we love playing in these realms because we do have reactionary people that we play with, and people are going to try and grab a guy that's in form. You put your hand up there for anyone listening on audio. Yeah, and I'm probably the same to be fair. A lot of us, we love to jump on the players that are red hot while it's happening, and we try and justify it in our head that it's going to keep going. But yeah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head. His ADP was 55, 56. So realistically, like at the moment, he's the 34th best player. I think he can't drop past 60. So you're just enjoying the bump right now before it comes back to where you got him. He's never ever going to drop past where you got him. I don't see him as the 80th best player at the end of the year. And if he can keep this up, but maybe it is that leap that he needs to take, because he's been the 60th and 76th best player the last 2 seasons. But maybe he does take that next step. He's definitely good enough. So if he can hold, if the free throw percentage can hold, and the block numbers can stay around that 1.5, there's every chance he could be a 35-40 guy. So some good value. Enjoy it while you've got it anyway, but definitely looking at a trade if someone throws something your way. Let's have a chat about maybe the man that surprised us the most out of these 3 guys, and that's RJ Barrett from the Raptors. Now, he's currently the 53rd best player overall. He's averaging over 20 points per game. We all predicted that he was going to cop a hit with Braino and Ingram coming across, and funnily enough, that hasn't happened at all. He's shooting over 500 from the field, which I think will come back a little bit. But for the most part, he's been probably one of the best defensive options over in Toronto.
Yeah, he's really changed his game up from playing in New York. And he's been working on that since he's been in Toronto. I just thought that when this team was completely healthy, unlike it was most of last year, and with the incoming Brandon Ingram, that he would be the guy who's lost out. And against the odds, it's he hasn't. He's looked really fantastic. The field goal percentage I think won't last, even though he really doesn't bomb threes like he used to back in New York. So it's never going to get back to New York type levels. But the free throw percentage at whatever 700 is a bit damaging, especially because he gets there a bit. Like he's not a two free throws a game type dude. He's a little bit more loved at the line. But yeah, the scoring has been awesome. I look at what happens around him, and I don't think you're going to get really more out of Barnes. I don't think you're going to get any more out of Brandon Ingram. Yeah, maybe the point guard situation's been a little bit quiet, so he's probably absorbing some touches, and his usage has probably increased there a little bit because Quickly's been a little bit disappointing thus far. But yeah, I'd say where he's at is probably a little bit unrealistic, but I can also see how he could probably maintain this on the team that he's on. Like, he has evolved as a player. He never excites me because he probably doesn't do enough. Even though he's not a bad defender, he doesn't get enough defensive stats. So from a fantasy lens, he really doesn't come onto my radar. But yeah, a definite shower. He's shown us what he can do. So that's kind of in line the definition of what showers are.
There's been, a big bump in a lot of categories. I mean, last year he put up the same amount of points, 21 points per game. He's around that mark at the moment. But his rebounds and his assists were much higher last year in the 58 games that he played in Toronto. So, yeah, very interesting to see whether that can hold. Steals are the big thing at the moment that I think are driving his ranking right now. 1.3 steals per game. In previous seasons, he has never been more than a 0.8 steals per game guy. So we're looking at nearly half a steal bump right now. So I think that probably does come back a little bit. He's just not known for that. But the rebound numbers, the assist numbers, they're all pretty standard to what we'd expect from him. If anything, maybe the rebounds are a little bit down, which probably holds as well. But everything else is looking pretty good except field goal. Field goal and steals come back. He ends up being the 80th best guy, and that's pretty much where you drafted him this year anyway. 93 on Yahoo, 86 on Fantrax. So you can't really be upset with that either.
And maybe the rebounds in fact get worse because we've had Pirtle barely playing, and he doesn't mind a rebound, and the guys who replaced him aren't known for being rebounders. Well, one's not known at all, the other one's not known. What's his name? Can barely say his last name.
Mamakalashvili.
Thank you, Mamakalashvili. Gotcha. Yeah.
Looking at usage as well, just before we move on to the Grow-Ers, Emmanuel Quickley, their point guard, is the fourth highest usage player in this team. So it's very clear that the ball runs through Scotty Barnes, it runs through Brandon Ingram. They're at 25.5%. And then RJ Barrett is third at 23.3%. So he's really within 2% of the top usage guy on this team. So they're sharing the ball around a lot this year. Yeah. So if you believe that can hold, then naturally the counting stats probably come with that. So very interesting watch. Absolutely. Mate, let's move on to the Grow-Ers, so to speak. And there's one man that's, he's just maybe starting to give us a little bit of what we know he can do. And we're talking about a guy we've been kind of disappointed with, aren't we? But funnily enough, he really hasn't been that bad. Derrick White, the steal, we talked offline, the steal and the block numbers are definitely holding. His ranking based on his field goal percentage is just putrid in the toilet. 332% from the field is what's hurting him the most. He's just bombing bricks left, right, and center, Derrick White. But looking at his steal and his block numbers, 1.8 steals, 1.3 blocks per game for a guy that plays shooting guard, point guard eligible. It does out of position blocks are elite. And he's getting you 5 assists a game. We thought maybe we had too higher expectations on Derrick White to start the year with no Jason Tatum. Maybe we thought he'd do a little bit more, but with more responsibility comes more attention. And I think that's probably what's hurt him the most.
Yeah, but even some of his shots have just been like, I watched one of the Boston games the other day and they weren't even close. It's not rim and outs, and he's been unlucky, and he just needs a few more to land to change things up. So he was the guy I made a trade for, Jrue Holiday. I'm in a points build. I really need field goal percentage, but I think I've got enough going on that I can hold him until he repairs. He has been, in the last 3 years, a fantastic field goal percentage guy. As you said, he's obviously not taken the defensive pressure from the opposing team because he hasn't had to. He's been maybe the fourth offensive option. That's not really what he's needed to do. This year it's changed a bit, but yeah, I think at the same time, some of the shots I've seen have been wide open and he's still been clanking them. So that does have something to do with it, but I also think he's just not in a groove at the moment. It's early days. All the rest of the stuff's there. Everything else he does. I think, as you said, the assists, we were hoping they'd be a little bit stronger. No one's been incredible in assists. I think Peyton has been the point guard and been doing the point guard work, but we were thinking we'd get a little bit more from Mr. White. But yeah, I'm unconcerned because there's one category that realistically needs to change for him to come back to basically his former glory.
Yep, agreed. And also, one thing to not discount is the fact that he is a very low turnover guy for the usage that he has in his team. When you're putting up 5 assists per game and only 1 turnover, like that's low compared to previous seasons even. So, hopefully that shot can correct itself. I did see he took a 3 in the most recent game the Boston Celtics played, and it kind of bounced off the rim and rimmed in and kind of, it was one of those ones where it's just shooter's roll, like shooter's luck. And I feel like maybe that might be a turning point. Just one shot, where you get a bit of luck go your way, it bounces in off the rim, or it bounces fucking 10 meters in the air and nearly hits the ceiling and comes back in. That's the kind of stuff you want to see, because usually those just don't go in for a guy that just isn't shooting well. So I'm really hoping that he can turn a corner there with his field goal. But I traded for him recently as well. I ended up packaging up in a punt rebounds, punt blocks build, punt field goal build. I ended up trading for him. I got Derrick White, and I had Trey Johnson as a bit of a throw-in into that trade, but I ended up having to trade away Jaren Jackson Jr., and I got Nurkic off waivers. So I kind of traded away some big man stats for some stuff that fit my build a little bit more and fit my punt. So, Derrick White, really probably one of the best buy low candidates in the NBA space right now. So keep an eye out for him. Another buy low, we'll call him a grower for the sake of the show, mate, is Dyson Daniels. Now, we spoke about him. We were a little bit concerned about him earlier. A couple of weeks ago, I think we did a show. Might have even been as recent as last Friday. We did a show on the stock market, and Dyson Daniels was one of the big concerning factors. He was ranked 170th. Now he's into like 100th, which is nice. Steal numbers have come back, but no Trae Young has been a revelation for him.
Yeah, so he's already on the grow. I think he's obviously got more growth in him, but the field goal percentage has been pretty rough. But that's never been a huge part of his game. He just really hasn't had to take a lot of shots. Even with someone whose field goal percentage is rough, when you're only taking 7 shots a game, it isn't that troubling. Where if you are like a Devin Booker owner and he has a bad night and he's at 33%, he might have missed 14 shots or something like that to get to that point. So even with Dyson, he is recoverable from, because he just doesn't, the volume really isn't there to hurt him. It is nice to see the steals starting to come along. I'd love some more assists out of him now that Trey's on the shelf. And I kind of feel like a little bit like talking about Derrick White, even if or when Trae comes back, I think he'll be back in his groove a little bit then too. Even watching Dash the other day, you just see that it's must be a brotherly trade. He couldn't put anything down either. But that's not why you picked him up. You're not like, damn, I really wanted him to be a 17-point-a-night scorer. Like, you got him because the efficiency is usually not too bad, so that you probably might feel a little bit ripped off on. But you got him because he can get assists, he can get steals, and he can, he's on the court. He has a role on this team. So, I think he's a bit of a blessing in disguise for him. Well, not in disguise. It's very open that it's been a blessing for Trae to go down just for his fantasy value. But, he's got room to grow even from where he's come over the last week.
Oh, for sure. People were drafting him at 37 to 44. You've got a guy that was last week the 170th best player. This week he's the 100th, and we'll start to see that trend continue into the, top 60s, I would assume, over the next couple of weeks while Trey's on the sideline. But, you talked about efficiency, field goal percentage. Last year he took 12 shots per game throughout the whole season. At the start of the year, he was only taking 7 shots per game. So, now we're starting to see over the last 7 days since Trey's been out, he's taken 11.3 shots per game. So that's starting to come back now.
Yep.
Hopefully that helps him find his groove a little bit. He doesn't get to the free throw line as much to hurt you. He's a really low volume free throw shooter. So whilst he only shoots 563 from the free throw line, he's only taken 2 of them a game. So
Yep.
it's not going to hurt you too much in that category. Threes are down as well, but naturally they'll start to come back when he finds his shot. So everything else will start to come. And then hopefully when Trey does come back, he can capitalise on that momentum with Trey.
He'll probably also benefit from some more minutes of Porzingis because Porzingis is a threes bomber, and he might benefit from Jalen Johnson being able to hit. He's under 20% in his threes at the moment. So once they're a bit more of a threat from outside the arc, that might open up a bit of space for him to get a few more, gimmies and let him get in the paint a little bit more and do some work. I guess at the moment, there just isn't that outside threat, so he's basically getting choked whenever he goes inside. So yeah, I think some of the external factors and context is probably going to help him a lot too, rather than just what he can do on his own.
For sure. Absolutely. If someone's getting the little trigger finger on the trade button for Dyson Daniels, he's a nice little buy low candidate along with Derrick White. And there is one more on this list before we wrap this one up, mate, and it is the man you just mentioned. It is Kristaps Porzingis. Now, 73rd best player at the moment, 17 points a game, 6 boards, 3.5 assists. You're not drafting him for that, but the block number 0.8 is a little bit down for me. Obviously when you draft Porzingis, you're looking for 1.5 blocks a game. You're just not getting that. He's not getting those rebounds, but we don't really expect him to get those. You're not drafting him as a big rebounding center. You're probably punting rebounds, getting Porzingis. He was taken in the 50s to 60s, which I think is probably... even the value that you're getting right now is around where you took him. And, if you look at the last 5 seasons, whilst he hasn't played maximum games, he's still been the 34th best player at the absolute worst season that he's had, and that was last year. So, I think that you're getting a floor version of Kristaps Porzingis right now, like that little taste of, and probably has grown the least out of the 3 guys that we've just shown, but we know how much more is to come, and you're getting little glimpses of what we know and what we expect from him.
And really, as you said, he is doing a lot for someone who's out there for 20 minutes. He's been fantastic. He was sick last week, but he seems like he's back and ready to go, coming into strength a bit now. It'll be nice when he can ramp up to at least the high 20s or some early 30s if that's not out of reach for him in this part of his career. But yeah, the blocks are definitely the thing that's going to help him. If he can get back to 1.5 blocks, you're pretty well laughing. And I think that's something he can even do in the lower minutes. But we've got to remember with him, unlike most of the guys, I guess Jrue's the exception here because he did go to a new team and he's thriving. Whereas I think it's just going to take a little bit longer for Porzingis with the Hawks to kind of figure out what he needs to do and who he needs to be. We also got to understand that this Hawks team had its own injury disasters last year and they're figuring out things for themselves. It's not like you're a very well-ingrained team and then someone comes in and it's just like, okay, let's just make them make sense in here. They're still making sense of what they were left last season with. I
well
think
said.
there's definitely room for growth.
For sure. And, with Trey out, of course, I don't think that's going to help Porzingis. I think that'll hinder him. So we're starting to see some improvement for him without Trey. We can imagine what that's going to look like with Trey back. And he's spending a little bit less time in the paint as well, which is indicative of why the blocks are down. We see Jalen Johnson doing a lot of switch and in the pick and roll as an anchor. So, yeah, it's 25 minutes a game. I don't think we're going to see a bump in minutes. I think him and Okongwu are going to have nearly borderline a minute share for the most part because it seems to be working. Okongwu's also way too good to be spending more than 20 minutes off the court or 25 minutes off the court. So, yeah, I think you just need to temper expectations short term. But I think, a really nice buy low candidate at the moment who's 71st ranking is really not that bad. And he's doing, for the most part, what you expected of him. If we get blocks, we're good. Like you mentioned, good free throw guy for a big as well. And you don't often get that. So you've got to take the wins when you get him with him.
And he can keep the exact same stats set he's got now and improve that 0.6 blocks. And that's going to shoot him up 15 places, that's
Exactly
going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for him.
For sure. Absolutely. That's the 6, mate. We've gone 3 Grow-Ers, 3 Show-Ers. We've got Jrue Holiday, Jalen Duren, RJ Barrett as the Show-Ers. They've given us everything that we think that we can get from them. We've squeezed the orange, the lemon dry. So you can potentially sell high on those guys. And then the Derrick White, Dyson Daniels, Kristaps Porzingis are the potential buy lows and the Grow-Ers that have plenty left to give, mate. So we'll keep changing things up, I think, on a Friday and coming up with some new ways to deliver content and just change things up from the normal. Pick up these guys for streaming options. Of course, tomorrow's an 11-game slate as well. So for the most part, there won't be many options streaming-wise. You probably have full rosters, so which is why we thought we'd change it up tonight. So good fun, mate. Yep. Enjoyed it.
Yep. All I can say on tomorrow, if you get into this early enough, little injury trouble in Miami, and some is still in Golden State. So if you're looking for a guy to pick up, one of those guys, if you can get a fringe kind of player from either of those teams, go and have a look.
Yep. Absolutely. Well said. Thanks for joining us, guys. Hit the subscribe, the like, the follow. Put the little bell on just in case you don't want to miss any future episodes. We're bringing you episodes nearly every day through the fantasy basketball season, so make sure to tune in there. Audio listeners, hit the follow button. You won't miss anything there either, and we'll see you for the next one. You'll be back. I think it is on you'll be back for the final day wrap-up with Matrix to help everybody win their matchups, I think.
Yeah, so I'll come and find me then.
Love it. All right. Thanks, guys. See you next one.